Hi, everyone. Welcome to Fastracked to Success. We are here today with Chris Kisenda, alumni from October 2018, but out there making a splash first at the site level in clinical research, and now has had so many roles at sponsor pharmaceutical companies. We're going to dive into that. He's been, oh my gosh, everything from associate clinical scientist, getting into clinical documentation now. I mean, on the regulatory side, it's been a really cool path. But Chris, welcome. I'd love to turn it over to you to just introduce yourself.
Thank you, Arna. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been crazy. My name is Christopher Kisenda, currently a clinical documentation specialist at a company in Woburn, Massachusetts. It's called Replimune. I've been doing that for a year now. And before that, I was at another company, sponsor company called Innovio, and I was associate clinical scientist there, but started out as uh, clinical trial associate. So, but no, it's been a journey. I've learned a lot, but definitely wouldn't have happened without joining the Clinical Research Fastrack. So,
Oh
I'm
my.
really grateful for that.
Well, Chris, we are excited to dive into some of these topics today. As always, I am Lauren Belina Chang. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Growth here at Clinical Research Fastrack. What does that mean, really? My whole goal, my focus is to help all of our students to grow, but very strategically in this industry. So we're going to get into that strategy with Chris and how he's been able to navigate the sponsor side of research from starting off for just a brief minute as a research technician at Penn, right? Wasn't that after graduating from Fast Track, you dove right into a research tech position. And that's one of the more entry-level positions in clinical research. And you didn't spend a long time there. Could you share with us a little bit about what that role was like?
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, I got into Penn after the course. That was really the first job offer that came in, and I said pretty much, it'd be good to accept it just to get an experience going, start off right away. So there I was basically in investigational drug pharmacy. And there we were working on like multiple different studies at the same time. We were doing IVs to regular prescriptions and sending it up to the different suites and offices in the hospital. Uh, but then also we were learning how studies were conducted, would have meetings to check over the protocols of each study. And then we would control temp logs that were coming in for different drugs that were shipped. Have to handle excursions for any issues that were happening with the fridge or the freezer. If the drugs weren't timed properly or kept cool enough, certain temperatures. So it was very meticulous, but it was a great experience because essentially it was at a site level, which I mean, it's always good to get that experience firsthand. So then when you move to, say, a sponsor or CRO, you understand what the sites deal with because that can cause a lot of confusion that I realize a lot of departments in the sponsor level aren't sure how to tackle and aren't sure of all like the little details. So
Yeah,
it-
it's actually a really interesting point. I think a lot of people in the industry get hung up on this. People have been in the industry for like 20, 30 years, right? So we have like our sponsor pharmaceutical companies, and often that's kind of thought of like the top of the industry. And then we have our contract research organizations, kind of these middle entities that help facilitate the running of the trial on behalf of the sponsors. And then we have our research sites. Doctors' offices, hospitals, independent sites. And that's really where like the drugs that Chris is talking about are administered. And so it's cool because your background reminded me as a farm tech, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so that was kind of a perfect transition in then. So you had your farm tech background, your bachelors, you take fast track, and then you're working in the investigational drug pharmacy. So like were you working with all the various departments in research? Like maybe it was like a neurology drug and next up is like an ortho device or something. Like what was that like?
yeah, that was pretty crazy. Yeah, I did a bunch of there were a lot of oncology studies, but we got to learn pretty much all methods, all kinds of studies that were out there. Um, So it was like a one-stop shop for every study coming in, um, which was cool because we got a good variety. There were even some projects because we had a lab manager there too, running her own projects. So that was their own studies that were created outside of all the other ones we were doing. So it was just a lot of multitasking, and everything had to be perfect and on par, especially with the IVs, because we had a lot of chemo drugs as well as just regular. Um, and so if anything were to be mixed or even the slightest degree could be very hazardous. So it was a pretty extreme level outside of just regular pharmacy.
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's really intense. But because of that and that understanding of the site, do you feel like that strengthened the job you could do as a clinical trial associate when you moved on to that position?
Oh yeah, 100%. Because I realized, as a CTA, I'm like everywhere. I wear multiple hats. I wore multiple hats at the time, and I was dealing with the site head on, like every site head on, for multiple studies. So coming from a site, and that's funny. I actually did work and communicate alongside some of my previous associates at Penn. So that was pretty interesting.
Whole world, right? You get it.
Yeah, very. It was weird to see people on the other side and then see who was in previous positions that I took over that was communicating with us when I was at Penn. But I was able to understand like turnaround times at sites, why the issues with certain documentation being received, any possible reasons for delay, just how things can fluctuate, and I was really able to bring that back to the sponsor side, so like my manager and such, and really be able to get a better understanding working with other teams and sites to get things moving along. So it definitely helped a lot.
That's awesome. And then from there, I got to get into this role because it's so cool. It's like such an interesting title. And I get this question a lot, like what is a clinical scientist? Like, what is that role? What do you do? And so I know from that CTA position, you evolved into that associate clinical scientist. What was that like? What were you doing there?
That was cool. So going up to that, it was more responsibility, of course. And the cool thing was it wasn't like CTA, doing like a bunch of different tasks. You were more concentrated, more of a manager of a study. So it was more going into meetings, meeting with medical monitors, discussing budgeting for the studies that you were a part of, and then kind of leading more conversations revolving around tasks, being involved in ad hoc meetings, ongoing issues, uh, basically just taking a lead role, even helping write protocols too as well. So it was definitely much different, but still just as exciting.
That's awesome to really get to inform that process of the protocol development and execution. And even there, I'm sure your site level experience and then CTA experience really helped you in that role. Um, Quick question. So we're talking a lot about your success in the field, but I want to kind of time travel back to when you made that decision to move into clinical research. Where'd that come from? What made you make that transition?
Um, well, so I came across the website. I forget how, but at the time I was on a pharmaceutical track, school, and that didn't pan out as much. I went on to like a PA track, and I was applying to the multiple colleges and whatnot. Had trouble getting in, but I was seeing like what else is out there, like kind of similar to that field in medicine that I don't know about yet, because I know there's got to be opportunity and demand elsewhere. Um, and so then I came across Fast Track Clinical Research. I was looking into it, and it's funny because my neighbor, who's been in the industry for like 20 plus years, as I've known her all this time and haven't known that she's been in there, was going over a bunch of different things she does at the multiple companies she's worked with. And I found that very interesting. And I've even tagged along with her, seeing what she does on day to day. And I was like, I should try this out. So I went through that, and it was important to me because I was like, okay, so it's a field I know nothing about. I've seen commercials for a drug being tested, but I didn't know what industry that was attached to per se. So to get more of a deep dive into it was really cool. Um, and yeah, I thought it was like a really good new opportunity to jump on. So I took a leap of faith and turned out really well.
That's awesome. I mean, it is a really cool kind of hidden field where, I think a lot of times people moving into healthcare, of course, they think like the main ones, right? Doctor, nurse, pharmacist, and now like PAs, a ton of traction there, or NPs, and like all these kind of more mainstream roles. And I still think a lot of times people, when you say I work in clinical research, I bet you run into this. People are like, Chris, what do you do? And you're like, I work in clinical research. And they're like, oh no, you're not going to experiment on me, right? Or they're just like, that's nice. Because they no idea what you're even talking about. That is we gotta make this not the best kept secret. We gotta make it not a secret, just the best part of healthcare. Do you have any memories or anything from the classroom you want to share?
I remember we were doing like, can't remember what kind of activity it was. It was like group activities of um like the different roles that you could be in the industry. Um, and we were role playing. We did a lot of role play. That was pretty fun. Um, oh, I can't remember anything too specifically, but I do remember a lot of play.
Yeah.
Different kind of roles. Like I guess we were learning what each role does and like acting that out as well. So, but I also remember we had a bunch of instructors coming in that had even just as much more helpful information that were, working in different roles in the industry themselves. So that was really cool.
Awesome. I know it. I'm like, okay, I was trying to shake loose some memories there. So,
Yeah, I was even talking with some of the other students, like even a couple years after to just see like how everybody was, where everybody was up to. It's cool just like looking at everybody's LinkedIn and seeing where they're at now. It's just like, wow, it's crazy. We all started in the same spot. It's like we're branching out.
yeah.
So,
I mean, it is wild because there's so many different ways you can take your career. I mean, I think a lot of times once people do find out about research, they think, okay, I'm going to be, site level coordinator, and then I'll be a CRA and I'll travel around and monitor these studies. But there's so much more you could do. And I think you're, a testament to that.
yeah.
Awesome. All right. Couple questions, and then we're almost done. You ready for it? This is what we call our lightning round.
Okay.
All right. What has been your favorite moment on the job? Any of your jobs you've had so far in research? Favorite moment?
Favorite moment would be well currently I'm remote. I've been remote lately, and my favorite moment would be kind of like going to Boston, like, and having like those weeks where we go in office and everybody's together. Because, as much as I do like working remote, it is nice that we have those quarterly visits in to see everybody and have meetings in person. We'll just go over everything, and then get to spend some time, some corporate outings and whatnot. So that's really cool.
Oh, I love that your company takes care of you guys like that. That's awesome.
It's awesome.
All right, last lightning round question. What impact do you want to make through your work?
Through my work, so basically where I'm at now, Replimune, I like how I came into that spot because they've been around at least over 3 years or so, but they're in the beginning stages. So I get to be involved in a lot of processes and how things should be organized. And one of the biggest things I see in the issue in the industry is like cross departmental communication, just connectivity. And so that's one of the things like I want to be able to find better ways to like attribute to that.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, that's cool getting in like on the ground floor when they're just getting the processes started where you can make sure it's done right. That's
Good.
Chris, they're super, super proud of you. Last question. What advice would you give to someone new to the industry? It's their first day and their new job in research. What advice do you have for that person?
Definitely, if it's interesting to you, really take the time to learn about it, ask a bunch of questions, always ask questions, never enough. Have fun, commit. just do the work. Um, it pays off. It could be in little time or a longer time, but it pays off because looking back, if I didn't go through with it, I don't know what I'd be doing right now. But it's definitely really good to do that. So just have at it.
Beautiful. Chris Kisenda, we are super, super proud of you. You have been fast tracked to success. We're grateful to be part of your journey and part of whatever comes next. Thanks for chatting with us today.
Thank you, Lauren. Appreciate it.